empty spaces. What are we living for? Abandoned places. I guess we know the score. On and on. Does anybody know what we are looking for? Another hero, another mindless crime. Behind the curtain, in the pantomime. Hold the line. Does anybody want to take it anymore? Show must go on. The show must go on. Yeah. Inside my heart is breaking. My makeup made me flaking, but my smile still stays on. The show must go on. The show must go on. Yeah, yeah. Ooh, inside my heart is breaking. My makeup made me flaking, but my smile still stays on.
But here you are, after 13 years, four old ladies are still rocking away.
Show must go on. Show must go on. I'll face it with a grin. I'm never giving in. I'm in the show. Ooh, I'll top the bill. I'll overkill. I have to find the will to carry on with the show must go
From Universal Orlando Resort, where the incredible meets the unbelievable, and the thrills are nonstop. It's Deal or No Deal.
Welcome to Deal or No Deal. I'm Howie Mandel. Now, because this show is so intense, I'm required to go over a few rules for your safety. I have to warn you that you will experience heart-stopping excitement, and you will get caught in the turbulence of dramatic decisions. But should you experience total joy while watching, know that you are not alone. Now we can begin. Ladies, please. Ladies, please. Ladies, please. Ladies, please. Hello, ladies. See you next time, right here on Deal or No Deal.
Who wears short shorts? We wear short shorts. If you dare wear short shorts, Nair for short shorts.
If you want your legs short shorts bare without nicks and cuts, just take up the Nair and take off the hair.
Short shorts. If you dare wear short shorts, Nair for short shorts.
Nair, lotion, cream, foam, and blue lemon spray. Nair for short shorts.
It's close to midnight. Something evil's lurking in the dark. Under the moonlight, it feels like that almost stops your heart. You try to scream, but terror takes the sound before you make it. You start to freeze, and so it looks you right between the eyes. You're paralyzed, 'cause in this daylight, and no one's gonna save you from the beat of the strike. You know it's daylight, you're fighting for your life inside a together.
Darkness falls across the land. The midnight hour is close at hand. Creatures crawl in search of blood to terrorize your neighborhood. And whosoever shall be found without the soul for getting down must stand and face the hounds of hell and rot inside a corpse's shell. The demons squeal in sheer delight. It's you they spy, so plump, so right. For though the groove is hard to beat, yet still you stand with frozen feet. You try to run, try to scream, but no more sun you'll ever see. For evil reaches from the crypt to crush you in its icy grip. The foulest stench is in the air. The funk of 40,000 years, and grisly ghouls from every tomb are closing in to seal your doom. And though you fight to stay alive, your body starts to shiver, for no mere mortal can resist the evil of the thriller.
Remember, you're playing for Bud Light, lady.
Boys are back in town.
These guys are good.
Who are you calling guys?
Yeah.
Looks like you're in the finals. Ma'am, for the great taste that won't fill you up and never let you down, make it a Bud Light.
You're the defending ladies pool champion?
Yes, I am.
So now, BBC One drama as we pay our first visit to Albert Square to meet the EastEnders.
Pretty easy, really. They just got on the running machine, they videoed me to analyse my gait, and apparently I've got impeccable foot arches.
Oh, that's exactly what I thought first time I see your feet. Impeccable arches coming.
I won't tell you what I thought of yours.
Open up! Open up, you lying! Oi! What's your problem? Where is he? Yeah, just calm down, Shirley. They go.
Pretty easy, really. They just got on the running machine, they videoed me to analyse my gait.
What's that got to do with us?
What do you want? Innocent people don't run. Shirley.
Pretty easy, really. They just got on the running machine, they videoed me to analyse my gait. Pretty easy, really. They just got on the running machine, they videoed me to analyse my gait. Pretty easy, really. They just got on the running machine, they videoed me to analyse my gait.
Bed?
Well, you thought wrong, boys.
Bubbly's in the fridge. Bubbly's in the fridge.
Bubbly's in the fridge! You liar!
Pretty easy, really. They just got on the running machine, they videoed me to analyse my gait.
China! This ain't over!
You're listening to Recess with Spinelli.
DJ Spinelli.
Recess with Spinelli.
This is Principal Prickly speaking. Put down your number 2 pencils and go outside. Ruckus begins now.
something to dream about, mister? Wanna kiss me, Ducky?
I suspected something, but not that.
Hello and good morning. Dana International, the Israeli singer who won the Eurovision Song Contest, has been causing a big fuss in Israel because she's a transsexual. She's been called an abomination. If they feel that badly about a man becoming a woman, imagine how you'd feel when you've left your wife, like Ian did, for a woman who turns out to have been a man, like Nikki was. Ian, why did you leave your wife for Nikki?
When I met Nikki, she was something special. I was having a drink in a bar, I clapped eyes on her and just fell in love with her. There is such a thing as love at first sight, and that's what I found in Nikki.
So you chatted her up?
Yes, and
you...
along the way, I've had 1 or 2 serious lectures from her, but she's got nowhere.
What lectures, what on?
Trying to put me off, but no way. I wanted Nikki, and I've got her.
But from what moment did you know that Nikki had been a man?
I've never seen Nikki in the male role. My Nikki's always been Nikki.
But what moment did she tell you? Did she tell you?
No, no. She's always been my Nikki.
What do you mean, no? You didn't tell him when he's chatting you up and he's asking you to take you home?
She was with a group of people, I do know. I knew that.
You knew what?
They were transvestites.
They were, yeah.
Transvestites or transsexual? You were transsexual?
They were actually transvestites.
They were transvestites.
And it was a self-help group.
Yeah.
And we were out under town and I bumped into Ian.
And how far had you gone at that stage in becoming a woman, Nikki?
I had just begun the hormone treatment.
So you were dressed as a woman?
I was dressed as a woman.
Made up?
Made up.
Or had you had breast implants or?
No, I was still wearing false breasts at that point.
Right. And you were clearly going to have the operation?
At that point, I knew full well where I wanted to go.
And you got this full-blooded married man after you?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I didn't know what to do.
Well, you obviously did know what to do. You did enough by the looks of it. You certainly got him manacled there, hand in hand.
I knew where I was going.
And what did you tell him exactly what you were?
Yes, very early on I actually told him exactly what it was. Trying to put him off, if you like. I was scared.
You were scared?
I was scared.
What were you scared of?
You know, for 40 years you live as a man and you suppress all of your feelings. You don't even know what they are for the first half of your life. And this was a whole new experience. The last thing I thought about when I sort of went for the reassignment was, well, I'm going to be chatted up by a man. And it scared me. And it took me a long time, to actually understand my own feelings.
Can I ask you something?
Certainly.
Who gives a fuck what you think?
And to actually realise that, you know, this relationship is right. That, you know, we do not have a homosexual relationship. We are a heterosexual couple in every sense of the word.
But you were a man?
In name only.
Do you think of her sometimes as a man?
Never. Never.
You didn't even from the when at the first.
I've always seen my Nikki as Nikki.
It must have been very difficult to have had intimate relations at the beginning, or wasn't it?
Well, we actually have fairly strict rules.
Rules?
Ian has never seen me nude, and will never see me nude. Ian has never seen me without a wig, and never will.
That's your rule.
That's my rule. That's that's the only way that I can make this work.
What?
Have you had surgery or?
No, we're going to see the surgeon at the end of this month.
And what will happen then?
The operation.
To your relationship?
Well, that'll be wonderful. We've been dreaming of this day for ages, where we can actually have a full relationship together.
When you told your wife you were leaving her, did you tell her that you were leaving her for another man who is a woman?
I told her I was leaving. Well, yeah, she knew the situation, and.
You're equivocating on me, Ian. What did you tell your wife? What did you tell your wife?
I told Nikki. I told her that Nikki was transsexual.
And what did she say?
I got called a few names.
I bet you did.
But I wanted Nikki.
Why?
Because I loved Nikki. I fell in love with her when I met her.
And the fact that she was a man is still, because she hasn't yet fully had the operation, has elements of maleness about her, didn't cause you problems with other men? With other men?
Other men?
Well, they might have an attitude to you.
None whatsoever.
They can believe all this, can they? Imagine it. Adam?
I mean, when you first started out, you're homosexual, aren't you? Because you're going.
No, we're not homosexual.
But you started out dating a man, basically, and now you're saying.
I've always known Nicky as Nicky.
But Nicky in a man's body. It's a man's body. It's not a woman's body. It's been changed to be a woman's body.
I've always known her as Nicky. I don't look upon her like that. Do you understand that?
I've been in a relationship now since 1979, and for the first 2 years of that relationship,
with a man,
I was in the same situation, and to bring a bit of levity to it, I must have been the only person that started my degree in one sex and finished it in another.
But could you imagine Chatty marrying her?
I'd be shocked. I would.
But you don't know.
Why would I shock you then?
If I'd found out that I was chatting up a bloke, I'd kind of run out the door. I'd run out the door.
I'm not a bloke, though. I'm a lady. I'm a woman. I'm a proper woman.
That's right.
Now, and I believe I was born. Well, people say you were born a man. I wasn't. I was born a baby. That just happened to go.
Yeah, but you came into this world as a man. You were born a man, not a woman. So why?
I think that was me when I was about 2.
Debbie was born a girl, assigned female at birth, and lived most of her life this way.
I remember that jumper and I hated it.
But at the age of 44, almost 2 decades ago, she sought help to transition from a woman to a man.
That is me, about 3 years in.
So that's you there 3 years after taking...
Starting the testosterone.
She explains why she started on this path.
I just happened to turn the TV on at the right time and Kilroy was on, and he was basically talking to female-to-male transgender people, and it was like a eureka. This is me. This is what I've got to do.
What did you think changing gender would achieve?
Well, I would become a different person. I'd become accepted in the world.
You've still got these, I mean...
Debbie underwent a full female-to-male surgical transition, even having a penis constructed from skin on her forearm. But after multiple procedures, changing her name to Lee, and 17 years on testosterone, Debbie now deeply regrets what has happened. She's decided to detransition, go back to living as the gender she was assigned at birth.
I remember breaking down. It was like, this was a mistake. It should never have happened. But it was like, what the hell do you do about it? You know, how do you go through yet another harrowing transition? What do you do? I've got no hair, I've got a beard, I've had all my body mutilated. How the hell do I go back to being the Debbie that I was?
Debbie's circumstances are extreme, but she's not alone in changing her mind about identifying as transgender.
Well, Dr. Elizabeth Van Horn is a consultant psychiatrist in gender identity services at the Tavistock and Portman NHS Foundation Trust. Dr. Van Horn, we know many people transition without problem, but this film is about people like Charlie and Debbie who found that their decision to transition was a mistake. Your response?
Well, my response is that obviously on hearing about anybody who has transitioned and then feels that it has been a mistake, I'm obviously extremely sympathetic. I find that very, very distressing. You know, as doctors and psychologists, we want to help our patients through their journey, not thwart them or put them at any more sort of disadvantage. But on the other hand, I mean, your piece actually showed this really well. This is a very tiny proportion of our patient population, and by saying that, I don't wish in any way to sort of limit the impact that it has on those particular individuals. But what we know from our population is that actually well less than 1% of our population choose to detransition.
Isn't that the point, that as Deborah Cohen made clear, we don't know that number is small because we don't know the number. many that we talked to just said they can't return to the Tavistock for whatever reason that is. And your duty of care presumably should be to find out how people are feeling, to find out what has happened afterwards, where there isn't the extensive medical research or evidence to take care of those people.
I wouldn't disagree with you at all, and I would actually encourage anybody who's in that situation to go and see their GP and to seek to get a referral back to a gender identity.
But it's not just about going back, is it? It is a concern that you're putting people on these pathways without enough evidence of the treatment or of the long-term consequences of what that treatment is doing. This can be life-changing treatment in many situations and circumstances, and that pathway is something that you're putting people on without the requisite evidence.
Well, I accept that we can always have a better evidence base. I don't accept that there is no evidence base. I think it depends on how you define your evidence base. And what I would add...
Well, how do you define it? What do you give them?
I was just about to say that. You know, the children's service at the Tavistock has been running for 30 years. They have seen more than 10,000 patients. The adult Charing Cross Gender Identity Service has been running for a year less than I am, which I think is 53 years. In that time, they've seen tens of thousands of patients. So there may not be the sort of gold standard, as we would say in medicine, randomised controlled trials, but actually you are rarely going to get... Sorry?
Well, I'm just curious, because the NHS is meant to be dispassionate, isn't it? It is for people to have faith in all treatments, whether it is a disease, a cancer, an asthma, or a gender reassignment. It has to be peer-reviewed. It has to be evidence-based research. It's not enough to say we fail to be clinically curious or acquire the relevant data and evidence that we need to make sure this is right.
I think that's both harsh and inaccurate, actually. I mean, I think a lot of research has gone on over the years. I think that it's quite difficult to do very long-term research in any field. And if you're looking at people's reactions to transitioning, and you're looking at what happens 5, 10, 15, 20 years, very few studies will ever be set up that will actually take that into consideration. If you look at the... Hang on,
let me just ask you about the numbers, OK? Because the numbers are astonishing, that we know that in the last 4 years, the number of adults and children being referred to gender identity clinics has more than doubled. It's now at 8,000. Now, what do you attribute that to?
I don't know. I don't think any of us know.
But why aren't you finding out? I mean, you can't just say, I don't know and we're not looking into it.
I didn't say that. I said we don't know.
Well, are you looking into it?
And we probably won't know until some time has passed. You know, I mean, I think you have to be realistic about what people are capable of achieving. So, you know, it's all very well for people to cast aspersion and opinion, but we are faced in a day-to-day...
Are you looking into it? Really simple question.
Can I just... Please.
Are you looking into it?
We are faced in a day-to-day situation with extremely distressed people coming to us, and we are trying to give them the best health care that we can.
Of course, and when you have people coming through your door, you need to have the research to understand why. So are you looking into it? Can you explain, for example, why more than 75% of those referred to you are assigned female at birth? Do you know that?
No, not yet, we don't. No.
So in that gap between not knowing and not doing the research...
And equally, Emily, prior to that, we didn't know why the majority of people that were being referred to our service were assigned male at birth. So something has shifted, you know.
So the Tavistock Gender Identity Clinic in London is due to close in the next few weeks. It was the NHS's only such facility for children and young people, and the decision to shut the clinic follows an independent review into gender identity services. Hannah Barnes has written a book about the Tavistock, and I'm delighted to say she joins me now. Hannah Barnes, welcome to the show. So for those watching who don't know about the Tavistock Gender Clinic and why it was shut, what were the main problems there?
There were many. I mean, one was that we had, as you said, one national service for England and Wales and that's it.
That's it, right.
So they were completely overwhelmed with the numbers that were being referred, which dramatically increased from 2009 onwards and then really had this sort of explosion around 2015.
Ladies and gentlemen, the courageous, the stunning Caitlyn Jenner.
A standing ovation tonight for an athlete who became an American hero at the Olympics and may now be changing America itself. Caitlyn Jenner kissing her mother and then walking to the stage at the ESPYs right here on ABC to accept the Arthur Ashe Courage Award.
It's been eye-opening, inspiring, but also frightening. All across this country right now, all across the world at this very moment, there are young people coming to terms with being transgender. This transition has been harder on me than anything I could imagine. And that's the case for so many others besides me. For that reason alone, trans people deserve something vital. They deserve your respect. I always wanted my children to be so proud of their dad for what he was able to accomplish in his life. You guys have given so much back to me. You've given me so much support. I am so grateful to have all of you in my life.
Her words striking a chord with many. Viewers tweeting, Caitlyn Jenner, you have shown again that you continue to be a champion. And Caitlyn Jenner equals courage. Daughter Kylie Jenner saying, I love my dad. And tonight at the ESPYs, from our sister network, ESPN, also owned by our parent company, Disney, that transformation continued. Jenner up on stage, embracing her voice in the transgender community.
I know I'm clear with my responsibility in going forward to do whatever I can to reshape the landscape of how trans issues are viewed. And while it may not be easy to get past the things you always don't understand, I want to prove that it is absolutely possible if we only do it together. Thank you.
So they haven't been able to cope with the numbers. The independent review that you mentioned, undertaken by Dr. Hilary Cass, has said that that one service model isn't sustainable and it is unsafe.
The accusation seems to be that Tavistock has been adopting the affirmative model insofar as a child says, I think I'm in the wrong body, and they affirm that rather than explore possibilities. So that seems to be at the heart of this problem. I mean, and you're hearing stories from some people who have now detransitioned saying there were 1 or 2 face-to-face meetings and they were on the path. That can't be.
Well, I've spoken to several young people. They're all young adults now for the book. Some of whom are very happy. I have to stress that people have had really positive experiences there, and some of whom, frankly, have been harmed and really badly harmed. One of them has detransitioned now. She's doing really well, actually. But she said, look, her assessment was so lacking in any thoroughness. She'd had a same-sex relationship. She'd been made to feel quite ashamed about that prior to her identifying as trans. She'd had some really quite bad mental health problems, disordered eating, all these things that weren't really considered in her 5 appointments. She was at the older end of she was sort of 16, 17 when she was seen, so she went straight to adult services, got testosterone at her first appointment because her GIDS assessment was taken as gospel, she says. But actually that assessment wasn't very good in her case.
I mean, that's really worrying. I mean, let's talk about that. The same-sex attracting issue, insofar as I've spoken to a number of gay activists who've sort of come out of retirement because they're now seeing these sort of old regressive ideas. There's this correlation between gender non-conformity in youth and homosexuality in later life. It's not an exact science, but there's a strong correlation. And, whistleblowers at the Tavistock have talked about how homophobia could have been the driving force behind a lot of these things. Effectively, you're fixing gay kids to make them more in line with heterosexual assumptions.
Well, that was the fear, and I think it's really important to say that that was obviously not the intention and it wasn't a conscious thing, but it might have been that was the result. And I think, one of the clinicians I spoke to in the book, and I have to say, I think it's a myth that the only people concerned about this were clinicians who were gay themselves. Absolutely not the case. The vast majority said that so many of the young people they saw had been same-sex attracted.
Yes.
Or were same-sex attracted, but obviously didn't identify with their natal sex. But we know one of the clinicians I spoke to, Dr. Matt Bristow, raised exactly the same point that you're saying, that actually many of the behaviours in childhood which might indicate a trans outcome in adulthood would also indicate a gay or lesbian or bisexual outcome in adulthood, and that seemed to be being forgotten because this was a gender service and everything was being viewed through the prism of gender. And that's, he said it was, he and others were trying to impress that upon their colleagues, that, you know, it might be that that young person would grow up to be trans, but actually it's also a really strong indicator they might grow up to be gay.
And what happened when these clinicians raised these concerns internally?
Well, two things. So one is there would be lots of talk. So it wasn't that there was no opportunity to talk, but then nothing would happen in some cases. And the other thing that would happen is that in some cases these clinicians would be sort of scapegoated. They've used that term with me, that branded troublemakers, and not necessarily always in an overt way, but then somewhere or other they would leave the service because they tried to raise these concerns over and over again, and not just within GIDS, but within the wider Tavistock Trust itself. And then, you know, they took those concerns out of the trust, but they did so for years and years and years, over and over again, to numerous people, and effectively nothing changed.
Is that part of a broader problem with the discourse surrounding gender identity, insofar as those who raise concerns, these kinds of concerns, are often branded as being hateful or transphobic, and therefore their views are automatically dismissed?
Well, I think one of the reasons I wanted to write the book is that if you're sort of the average partly engaged layperson, you might think that there's no lack of agreement in how best to care for this often distressed, vulnerable group of young people. And where there is disagreement, it's motivated by transphobia, but nothing could be further from the truth. And in gender clinics, you know, here, but in Europe and in the US, we've started to see now, there is lack of agreement on how best to treat each and every one of these young people. You know, for some, it may well be, and it seems to be, a physical transition, but for many, was what these clinicians were saying, it won't be. And GIDS was very geared up to helping those for whom it would work, and not those for whom it wouldn't, is what they say. And yes, and I think they've said to me that the word gender here just muddied the waters. It meant that, as Dr. Cassis said, that the service didn't receive the level of oversight one would expect from NHS England, and from others, from our regulators, from our politicians, from the media.
I think a lot of people listening to what you're saying, I mean, will be thinking, you know, but we're dealing with very young people. People who are prepubescent surely shouldn't be able to make these decisions that might affect the rest of their lives. And also, is it not the case that most of these feelings of dysphoria are resolved naturally through puberty, the very puberty that is in fact a halt is put on it by these drugs?
Well, a few things there. So you can't be prepubescent and go on the blocker. You have to have at least got to... Yeah, you have to have started. You have to have got to what they call Tanner stage 2. And while it is the case that some very young children have commenced treatment with the blocker, sort of 9-year-olds have been referred, 10-year-olds have certainly started.
The UK?
In the UK. But the numbers at that lower end are very, very small. So, partly because of the length of GIDS's waiting list, the majority are sort of 14, 15, you know, adolescents rather than that lower age bracket. Older studies in this, albeit they're all flawed. I mean, the evidence base is very, very weak. It's sort of small number of participants, no long-term follow-up, did seem to show that, yeah, in the majority of cases, the gender incongruence would resolve as a young person went through puberty. You know, some in the trans community would say, well, that evidence base doesn't apply to this group of young people. But, you know, that old evidence base actually is the evidence base that is used to justify the treatment as well. So I think it's difficult to... That is what the old studies showed, but all the studies are flawed, they're small.
So we need better studies, right?
Sure,
and we need more discussion.
The reaction when people hear that we have 2 trans kids is pretty shock and awe.
Before I had transitioned, I had like a piece missing to me, and it just didn't feel right. And I was nervous to tell my parents.
Being trans would mean you were born,
the gender that you don't feel like in your heart.
Just now, a month ago, started hormone blockers to prevent his menstruation cycle and breast development, which would cause a lot of havoc mentally. Can you show me what the blocker looks like that's implanted? First, show me in your arm. Where is it?
It's right there.
Right there? Can I feel it?
Oh my God. First of all, the odds that you have two, not just one, two transgender children is, according to ChatGPT, 0.002%. I don't have to even ask ChatGPT this, but the chances of you being a narcissistic pig, 100. 100. Is that mean? Yes. I was trying to be mean. This is some bovine behavior. This one's hitting different. This one's hitting like, first of all, do people understand what a big deal it is to let a camera crew like this, a professional camera crew in your home? That is a level of intentionality that is, again, very self-serving, because she gets to sit here up on her pedestal, up on camera, and put out this video to the world about, you know, all the things we're talking about, tolerant, loving, exclusive, you know, liberal, whatever. You put an implant in your baby to block their natural development. See, the older I get, I never thought I would be one of those people who's like, oh, things really are demonic, but they are. I never thought I would be the kind of person that really starts to blame demons. And people laugh when I say, you know, all the demonic stuff, and people don't really take me seriously. And half the time I am joking, so I can't really blame you. But however, let's just say whoever convinced this woman, right? Whoever injected this into the media apparatus, telling, again, middle class to upper class white women that putting an implant to stop the development of their child, their daughter, is something that a good person does. That is some straight inversion of goodness. And this makes me want to cry, to be honest. It really does. It's just like all the, you know, things that we can say until we're blue in the face. Like, you know, you can't make these decisions so early, and, you know, it's irreversible and all that. Like, all that's true. But it's like, I just can't imagine going through this much at this age. I'm someone who went through a lot by the time I was this kid's age, but nothing like this. And I feel like altering the hormonal makeup of a child, implants at, like, come on. You know, I really didn't want to like make the argument against transgender children in this video, because I feel like I've done that so many times, but this is just killing me. Just a list. How about we just do a list of the things you can't even do in this country till you're 18? Vote, sign contracts, get married, join the military, apply for a credit card, purchase a firearm, serve on a jury, get tattoos, gamble, purchase lottery tickets, work full-time, rent or lease property, drive unrestricted, legally leave school. You actually can't do that until you're 18. Sue or be sued, consent to medical procedures. Oh, without parental approval. See, there's that little loophole. Be tried as an adult or adopt a child. But you can sterilize yourself for life, permanently alter your body through surgery, as long as it's called gender surgery, right? Gender affirming care. And in California, a trans sanctuary state, by the way, just to add to this list, you can't even get in a tanning bed till you're 18. So tell me what's going on. Please make the case that these people are not going to be remembered as the Nazi scientists, as the lobotomists of this time, right? Please make any sort of case that we're not going to look back on bovine mothers like this doing this to their children the same way we look back at people who gave their children lobotomies because the science of the time told them that that was correct. You can actually just use common sense. See, that's the thing. The whole trust the science shit, right? You can do that, but never really at the erasure of your own common sense, right? And I feel like that's just where we're at. That you're supposed to have this blind religious faith in science. So much so that what would have seemed ludicrous 5 minutes ago is now an implant in the arm of a young female to prevent her from ever developing or having children herself. That is another argument you can make. It's not demons. It's not demonic. Okay.
Might granddaughter Edie came out to me as trans 5 years ago, and 2 years later she socially transitioned to a girl. And since then I've watched her blossom into a beautiful young lady, and so much in her life has changed. It's been such a positive experience. But I also see people asking all the time, what if she changes her mind? What if she's not happy? So I thought, let's go ask her.
Edie,
Yeah?
it's been 5 years since you've been a girl. Are you happy?
Yeah?
And that's the only thing that matters. I love you, Edie.
That's actually not the only thing that matters, right? Like, if your child was drinking Drano, but in fact enjoyed the taste, would you then say, well, as long as you're happy? No. If they were hopscotching on the freeway, as long as you're happy? No. Permanently altering their sex characteristics is actually what, like, people survive playing in traffic as kids. You can't come back from this. Also, some very relevant information here. My producer just told me that this man, this TikToker, so first of all, using your kids for clicks, disgusting. The family vlogger shit is just like, ugh. It's like child stars on steroids and even more unethical. But apparently this father wrote a book where he's talked about his fantasies of wearing women's clothing. What a coincidence his male child is now. What a coincidence. See, it's rare we have a dad up in here, but of course it would be even more demented than a mother. Of course it would have some sort of perversion to it as well.
Nation, which is Glamour magazine. What have they done wrong?
Oh, gosh. I mean, it's a litany of problems, but really what they've done is gone and crowned 9 biological men Women of the Year. I mean, I genuinely thought that we were over this. I actually ripped up a copy of that on air because I was so infuriated by it. It's like, as I said, I mean, I thought the era of, recognizing biological men as women was done when we got the Supreme Court ruling, but clearly not. It's something that absolutely does not champion. I mean, do you know who any of those women are? They're completely unknown.
They're called the Dolls, but it should say Blokes of the Year.
Yeah.
I mean, it's ridiculous.
The actual title is within the name. Dolls is what they are. They're caricatures of women. They've got the fake nails, the fake boobs, the fake hair, the fake eyelashes, and they just think that that's what being a woman is. There was an interview with one of them that said, it's so hard to date as a trans woman these days because it's like no straight men want to date me. And I'm like, yeah, no straight men want to date you because you're a trans man.
I'll tell you why that is. I'll tell you why that is, mate. It's because we're not gay. We don't want to go out with blokes.
I don't know.
Yeah, but they call you transphobic for that.
I mean, I'm not trans. Do knock yourself out. However you want to live your life, fine by me. But I don't want to go out with a guy. I have nothing against guys who want to go out with guys. I'm not one of them.
Technically transphobic because when they look that convincing, that is scary because you just don't know. Do you?
You don't because they're getting very good with the surgeries. They're learning how to shave the Adam's apple off. America is actually at the forefront of really making sure that they can erase that you were ever a man. They can even kind of almost shorten your extremities, which obviously men have much bigger hands and feet. It is getting to the point where, I mean, there have
I'm
been...
feeling self-conscious now.
There's been cases in the past, especially in America, where dating apps have had massive issues because they've been said, oh, we're transphobic because, we're not allowing you to basically identify as your real gender on the app. So I'm getting a little bit distracted because...
I'm on the front of the next edition of Glamour magazine. And I also thought I was surrounded by all of these stunning women. I thought if you... I don't think I got it on the right way round. I actually look like a Stone Age guy. Hang on.
No, it looks a bit like Mick Hucknall.
Oh, yeah. Dishy woman. Very dishy woman.
This is the wig that I famous. Look at it. It's hopeless, isn't it? I famously wore this to be Meghan.
Yeah.
It's my Meghan wig. So if you can't beat them, join them. And Glamour magazine, if you're around, I'm available for your next cover. What do you think? Shall we go to break?
way down the street with the pull way down low. Ain't no sound but the sound of his feet. Machine guns ready to go. Are you ready? Hey, are you ready for this? Are you hanging on the edge of your seat? Out of the doorway, the bullet to the start of the beat, yeah. Another one bites the dust. Another one bites the dust. And another one gone, and another one gone. Another one bites the dust. Hey, hey, I'm gonna get you too. Another one bites the dust.
I want to break free. I want to break free. I want to break free from your lies. You're so self-satisfied, I don't need you. I've got to break free. God knows I want to break free.
I've fallen in love. I'm falling in love for the first time.
And this time I know it's for real. I've fallen in love.
Yeah?
God knows I've fallen in love.
It's strange, but it's true.
Hey, yeah! I can't get over the way you love me like you do.
But I have to be sure
when I walk out that door.
Oh, how I want to be free, baby.
Oh, how I want to be free.
Oh, how I want to break free.
Hello? Hey. Yeah! Hey.
For crying out loud.
Hey.
Why don't you shut up?
Hey.
Yes.
Rising up, straight to the top.
Wow, thank you. What can I say? Thank you.
Pete's the next time, you weirdo.
That's the only way Lexi will eat her greens, isn't it? Anyway, enjoy your, where you off to? See Sharon, isn't it?
Oh, I wouldn't be going there, eh?
Oh, you're all right with her and Teddy, then?
So that's what this all is, eh? You feeling sorry for me, eh?
Oh, of course I'm not. Don't be stupid.
I'll tell you what. Shove your pizza and your pity, yeah?
Pretty easy, really. They just got on the running machine, they videoed me to analyse my game. Pretty easy, really. They just got on the running machine, they videoed me to analyse my game.
Oh, I wouldn't be going there, eh?
Oh, you're all right with her and Teddy, then?
So that's what this all is, eh? You feeling sorry for me, eh? Yeah?
Oh, of course I'm not. Don't be stupid.
I'll tell you what. Shove your pizza and your pity, yeah? Yeah?
mess with me, Patrick Truman. I'm warning you. You will be very sorry if you do.
Pretty easy, really. They just got on the running machine, they videoed me to analyse my game. Easy, really. They just got on the running machine, they videoed me to analyse my game.
That is a very difficult question to resolve. I've been told this week by very well-placed sources that as soon as they realised he was missing, they alerted the police. So for some reason, HMP Wandsworth didn't realise he was missing, or the paperwork wasn't right, or whatever happened. But there was a 6-day gap.
Calling to say I just calling to say I
have some form of control still, making our constant binary choices and voicing our equally shallow opinions more loudly or quietly. Most people can't even decide what color to wear or which burger to eat. What the does it matter, man? Autonomy is an illusion. Autonomy is an illusion. Autonomy is an illusion. Most people can't even decide what color to wear or which burger to eat. What the does it matter, man? Autonomy is an illusion. Autonomy is an illusion. Autonomy is an illusion. It's all about humanity. About humanity. It's all about humanity. About humanity. It's all about humanity. It's all about humanity. About humanity. It's all about humanity. About humanity. It's all about humanity.
This is the future. Evolution. This is the future. Evolution.
Data transfer complete. 100%.
Sky News understands the International Olympic Committee is moving towards a blanket ban on transgender women from women's sport. Let's bring in our sports correspondent, Rob Harris. Rob, there have been many people who've been campaigning for this for quite a while. Explain to us what it means.
This is a notable shift in position from the International Olympic Committee. Previously, they'd left it to individual sports to decide whether or not transgender women could compete in women's sport. But now Sky News understands that the International Olympic Committee is moving towards a blanket ban on transgender women competing in women's events. We also understand that there's been discussions about reintroducing sex testing, something that existed in the 60s until the late 90s. Now, the IOC is taking this decision or moving towards it because so many other sports are. Athletics, swimming, cycling amongst those who have decided to ban transgender women from women's events. Now, this is because of concerns about competitive advantages. I understand that last week IOC members were briefed by the medical chief of the IOC, Dr. Jane Thornton, that there are advantages in sporting terms from having those physical advantages having gone through male puberty, and that's created concerns about the women's sport category. There is a new IOC president, Kirsty Coventry, who told me just after her election in March she was looking towards about protecting the women's sport category, and now it looks like we could get a decision ahead of the LA Olympics in 2028. It does follow pressure from the US President Donald Trump, who spoke about this on the campaign trail, then after getting into office signed an executive order banning transgender women from women's sport in the United States. He vowed to end the war on women's sport, as he put it. He said he would deny visas to athletes trying to compete at the LA Olympics in women's categories if they had gone through male puberty. Now, I also understand that there could also be a ban on athletes with differences of sex development also being prohibited from women's events. Now, if we think back to the Paris Olympics in 2024, there were no transgender women that we know of competing, but there was a very high-profile case in boxing. Aman Khalif, the Algerian, won gold in women's boxing. It was said she'd failed sex test in the past at a contested world boxing event. She insisted she was born a woman and lived as a woman, but certainly her case brought this issue into the spotlight. New rules in world boxing meant she would not go through the sex testing that were required, so she hasn't taken part in recent events. So she is someone who could potentially be excluded from the Olympics going forward under all these policies. But a decision would have to be taken by the International Olympic Committee's main session. That won't be in time for the Winter Olympics in Italy in February, but also, IOC members are set to be discussing this more going down the line. I have just had a comment from the International Olympic Committee that they do say that an update was given by the IOC medical director to IOC members last week at the commission meetings. The working group is continuing its discussions on this topic and no decisions have been taken yet. So there is still a working group looking at this issue, but as things stand now, Sky News understands the International Olympic Committee is moving towards introducing a blanket ban on transgender women competing in women's sporting events.
Another one bites the dust. Another one bites the dust.